Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Positivity Podcast on Anfield Index. My name is Matt McElroy, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. I am joined, as always, by Lubo Markov and Paul Jenkins. How you doing, guys?
Well,
yeah.
Just enjoying a nice Sunday evening, as per usual when we record Positivity. So it's all good here.
Fantastic, and another lovely day there in Ireland. Lubo, how are you doing?
Good. It's a Sunday. I'm back home after traveling again for a few days, and just I was going to catch the second half of the Euros, the women's Euro final, and see how that goes.
Okay, wonderful. So before we get too far into our discussion, I'll make note that we are recording live today on AI Discord. So if you have any questions as we go through the discussion today, just go ahead and tag me in the chat, and we'll try to get to it. So for our opening question today, I'd like to know, do you guys have a favorite moment from a Liverpool opening day over the years? Paul, do you want to get us started?
For me, I think the obvious one was Sadio Mane against Arsenal. I think that was a brilliant opening day memory, and that was his debut, and just the goal that he scored that day, that was just phenomenal. And so that's probably like one of my favourite ones. The other one I have is going back. Like, I don't even know if I'm right on this or not, but I think I am. Fabrizio Ravanelli playing for Middlesbrough against us, and if I remember correctly, he scored a hat-trick in a 3-3 draw. Now, this is going back. I could be well wrong on that, but I think it was an opening day fixture, and I think that was like his debut for Middlesbrough, and it was just one of those crazy, insane kind of opening days. The Liverpool fixtures. So yeah, that would kind of be like my two.
That second one.
I'm checking right.
I'll take your word for it on the second one, but yeah, the first one, Sadio's strike was awesome. I think that one was made even better by the celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. For me, the thing that sort of stands out about opening days, especially in recent years, is that Mo Salah scores every single time, and it's been I think it's 6 seasons now. He scored in every single one of them. He had a hat trick against Leeds. He had the crazy one where he jumped into the net in his first game against Watford. Just if it's an opening day, that you can count on Mo to give you something special to watch, and a good way to start the season. So, Lubo, what are your favorite moments of opening days?
I will go with I think it was the first game of the 13-14 season. Was it at Aston Villa where Stoke. No, it was Stoke, right? Was it Stoke where we won 1-0, and I think Sturridge scored the goal, and then in the last minute there was a penalty that Mignolet saved, and it was just I don't know. There was something quite emotional about that last minute penalty save to preserve a win, which normally in that case you would think home against Stoke you should have been hammering them 3 or 4-0. You shouldn't have had to rely on the last minute penalty for that, but it emotionally was actually quite a charged opening day. So I would go with that one.
Yeah, everybody got
that was Mignolet's debut, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. And he got all he was super pumped, and everybody was in a good mood, and I think that really did help start the season in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think we won the first 3 or 4 games 1-0, and I believe Sturridge scored all the goals, including at home against Man United. Maybe it was the first 3 games, and that got us started on a good on a good path, especially since we didn't have Suarez for the first 5 games, I believe.
Right, he was still suspended at that point. So yeah, that was a big moment on an opening day. So I think that now that we've chatted a little bit here about opening days, we can look back about this preseason. Since we've last spoke to you, Liverpool completed their tour in Asia and then a training camp in Austria. And then yesterday, Liverpool defeated Manchester City 3-1 in the Community Shield. So, Lubo, did anyone impress you in any of the friendlies, either in Asia or against the Red Bull teams?
I mean, I was paying special attention to the new guys, Darwin and Fabio, because we didn't really see anything of Calvin. I think he's still injured, Calvin Ramsey. But I was also paying quite a lot of attention to Stefan Bajcetic, I think his name is, and mostly because I've been watching him in the academy last season, and I wanted to see how he does now with the senior team, and he is definitely impressed. And I would say all 3 of them have had very memorable trainings, if you will, or pre-seasons with the team. Obviously, Darwin, we don't need to talk a lot about him. He's been all over the social media for various reasons, but he's scoring goals, and that's all you want from a new striker. But I really liked how Fabio as well has adjusted, and he's been mostly used as a striker recently, as the left-sided attacker. But he's shown he can play in midfield. And Stefan has really done very well. I mean, he had little cameos in Asia, but the last game he played against Salzburg was quite impressive. So I'm really excited. You know, I really love to follow the academy, and a dream for me is just a player coming from the academy and establishing himself as a first team player. So I don't know if Stefan would ever do that, but definitely so far it's been promising. So I would say all 3 of them have done about as well as you could hope for new players coming to the team.
Yeah, I think that Stefan Bajcetic does look like he's got a lot of the skills that are needed there at the defensive midfield position. And like you, he was a bit of a revelation for me. I don't watch the academy, but just seeing him in these preseason games, he's definitely like stepped up and like just sort of like went right in with the like more senior players and just didn't look out of place at all. So that is encouraging, and hopefully we get to see him more in some of the domestic cup games as we get into the season. So that would be good for him, especially since he's only, I think, 17. Another thing that I noticed in a couple of the games that I did catch was just some positioning from Trent. He's like coming in like infield further a little bit more, and so like that could present some cool and interesting tactical changes, and like the way that he can interact with Mo or Bobby or Darwin there from that like more interior role. It could be good. So Paul, did anyone impress you in the friendlies?
So I've tried to watch as much as I could of the friendlies. At times I haven't really been able to focus on them too well, but Davies and that's at times impressed me. There's one game that I watched, his distribution was really, really good, or so I thought. It's great to have young goalkeepers coming through, and in that same old and that same fashion is what we're used to with Allison and Keller. So I thought he had done well. I thought like Mabaya has done pretty well whenever he's played right back. Not afraid to get forward and seems pretty good at that. Obviously still young, still raw, and as a defender working at what his position and everything is, but I thought he's done pretty well. And then as I talked about, Bajcetic looks to be the possibility for a young player come through in that 6 role. who could make the future very interesting for us, and maybe save us a few pennies when it comes to future transfers. So, no, I think there's been a number of players. It's hard to say every season has there been anyone who's been standout. I don't know that anyone has necessarily been a standout performer, but at the same time, I think a lot of the young boys who have been in have they've done themselves no harm in the performances they put in. I guess you got to feel a wee bit for Calvin Ramsey because he has been injured, and so his integration into first team might take a bit longer than what we'd necessarily have thought or have hoped. But I think James Milner actually, when he came on and played at right back yesterday, I thought he actually did pretty well there, and his progressive style of passing was very good. And I thought that was, when we're looking at that right back position for the season, to give Trent a bit of time off, whether it's domestic cups, whether it's Champions League or whatever, Milner again is still an option to be able to see out games. So I think even the likes of that yesterday showed that we still have good options at that kind of position. So I think overall pre-season has been good for us. You never really take too much of a notice on the results. It's just about getting minutes into the legs and seeing how the young players integrate. And there's definitely none of them. That's an absolutely shocking, terrible performance from them. I know against Man United, the first pre-season game, it was kind of like 3-0 down. But at the same time, that game, we probably could have been 4, 5, 6 goals up. So they didn't do themselves any harm in the way they played. So no, I think pre-season's been good.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell if the preseason games mean anything, right? Because you have guys in various levels of fitness. They get back to camp at a different cadence, right? So it's not everybody shows up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The opponents you're playing against, they're on the same sort of weird schedule where some started before Liverpool, so they're starting getting back earlier, so they're a little bit of shape or more match fit, or you're catching them early on because they started theirs later, or they have guys returning later. So it's always hard to tell if any one performance in preseason means anything. But it's good to
mm-hmm.
have a temperature check, so to speak, of where things sort of stand. And it's nice, you guys are saying, the way in which the academy guys are becoming integrated. It's they're using a lot of the same systems. So then when they transition to playing with the senior team, it's a lot of the patterns are the same, and so it's probably a lot easier for them to get settled even in the preseason games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point to shift a little bit to talking about the Community Shield yesterday. So, Paul, sticking with you, what were your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, so I didn't watch this live. Unfortunately, my eldest boy was playing at the same time, so I was down at that. So I came home last night and managed to watch the full game. Then after that, I think, when I seen the team come out, it was pretty much the team that we expected that was going to play. And I know people have questioned Hendo and Hendo's role and what he brings and how he's going to play. But we know, you kind of know what you're getting with him. And we know that probably early doors for this season, that is the way that we're going to set up. That's the personnel that we're going to play with. We know that Nunez probably isn't going to start. We're going to have Bobby through the middle. And watching the game, I honestly thought we played incredibly well for the first 30 minutes. And I had this discussion earlier, small conversation earlier, just around the idea that our squad and our team and our the first 11 that we put out, plus then the depth that was on the bench, I honestly feel that this is probably the best place that we've been in, team-wise, to challenge City and say, actually, you know what, I think our squad is probably, and say it quietly, better currently than what City are sitting with. City have lost a number of players. I don't know that they fully replaced them as of yet. We know that they're trying to do deals with defenders and whatnot, and they were going to let Ake go, but it looks as if he's going to be needed now because they're going to be short in centre backs. So I just kind of feel that, when you look at our team, one of the takeaways that I had from yesterday was that when you look at our team and you actually look at our depth, we probably are in a stronger position than what City are at. And I think, for the season ahead, that bodes well. Obviously, you can never legislate for injuries and all the rest of it, as City have found out and if we found out in seasons before. But, watching the game yesterday and seeing the substitutions, you're thinking, well, City don't have Sterling to bring on anymore. They don't have Fernandinho to come in and sit in midfield anymore. And you just kind of look at it and go, well, actually, our squad and our team is really, really good. And that's before you even start looking at how we played. I think, Trent's goal was one of those ones where, and I can't remember who was on the highlights last night, or who was on the post-game analysis, but City weren't closing down at all, and they were giving us so much space and so much time to pick those passes and then lay the ball back to Trent. And his strike was brilliant, and so you're kind of going, well, that's really good play from where we're at, and maybe we are one or two gears ahead of where City are at. So I think the big thing we need to do, coming into the season is just hit the ground running as fast as possible and get points on the board. And based on yesterday's performance, I do think we are in a really good place. I thought it was a really good game. Community Shield is normally one of those games where you're bored because everyone does think of it as a glorified friendly. But yesterday there seemed to be a good bit of competitiveness about it, and we seemed to be able to push up through the gears. And Nunez getting his goal, the way we won the penalty, and how we played. I thought Mo Salah looked as if he was ready for another big season. So I thought the Community Shield was definitely one of those games that laid down a marker and maybe has other teams looking at us going, do you know what, they're going to be hard to catch this season.
I think you're right. Like City, I think it was the last time they're from their roster last year. So that's like 1/3 of their team is now gone, and they're bringing in new guys to replace them. So like that level of like roster turnover is going to cause them, to need to have like a lot of that like team development in a way that Liverpool doesn't, replacing like 3 guys out of a squad of 25. So it's like that. That could be a big advantage for Liverpool in the early season. And like you're saying, like you got to like start fast and sort of put those points on the board and get out ahead. And if they can do that, that might position them better to win the league, because you want to be fighting from ahead rather than behind. It just like another thing, like you were saying, is like the intensity was like there more in that match than you might see in a normal like Community Shield. And I think that is just sort of the competitive nature of the Liverpool City fixture at this point. I hesitate to call it a rivalry, but it's becoming a bit like that just because Liverpool and City are the 2 best teams in England. Lubo, what were your takeaways from the game yesterday?
So I watched only the second half live because during the first half I was going through security at San Francisco airport, and once I went through and I was able to log onto Wi-Fi and stream the game on my phone, and I missed the first half, then I watched the highlights, and it does look like we were quite dominant for at least for a period of the first half, and when we scored the goal as well. But the second half, I thought there was obviously a period of Man City pressure, but especially how we rebounded and how we're able to then go ahead and then score even the third goal at the end. I thought it was very positive. It felt like we were stronger. We finished stronger. We had more legs, and that could be just because we've had a longer preseason. We've played more games. I think this was our fifth game that we've played. And this was only the third that Man City had played. They only had 2 games in the US. And you could also, I think you could feel that we were fresher as the game went on. We were stronger, and we're able to really at the end, especially with Darwin coming in against tired legs, we're able to really make it count. So from that perspective, I do think it's positive. So I have not seen much from how the attack played with Bobby when he was on the pitch. Obviously, as you can expect, he's a different player from Darwin, but maybe that's what was needed in the first half when you're playing against a fresher Man City, and then the second half you have Darwin against the more tired defenders. But overall, I was very happy with how we played. Klopp seemed very happy, and listen, every time you beat Man City, even if it's a friendly, you want to do it. It's just, I just hate dropping, points or losing to Man City. So yesterday, even if it was just a preseason friendly, you want to win. And the fact that actually you do get a trophy of some sorts, I think it's fine, and it counts. I mean, for the players, it counts. They know it's not a Champions League or Premier League trophy, but it's something. It's silverware. It's another medal, and you could see that, especially for the new guys, like for Darwin, for Fabio, I'm sure it actually mattered, the fact that they have a first medal with Liverpool as well. So it's all good, but very positive. You mentioned Trent, his positioning earlier. I think you could see that yesterday. I think the only other thing that I will say is that Mo Salah looks unplayable. He just looked absolutely phenomenal how he played yesterday. Was involved with everything good that happened. Obviously, the assist to Trent. And then those chips over from right to left that helped create the third goal as well. He's just he looks like man on fire, and hopefully he has another phenomenal season.
All right, that's a good time to start looking ahead to the start of the season. So next weekend, Liverpool begin the campaign against Fulham, and then the Reds will play consecutive Monday night games against Crystal Palace and Manchester United before ending August with home games against Newcastle and Bournemouth. The Champions League group stage draw will be at the end of the month, August 25th. And then, unlike previous years, the first game for the League Cup will not be until November. So, Paul, starting with you, what are you looking for in the first month of the Premier League?
15 points. you want to go your first 5 games. When you look at who those first 5 games are against, Fulham, Palace, United, Newcastle, and Bournemouth. You have to kind of go. Those 5 games have to be 5 winners. And I don't care what anyone says. Going to Old Trafford, 3 games into the season, we should be able to beat them. They're still relatively fresh under Ten Hag. There's still a lot that they have to get worked out. Ronaldo has only just come back into the team setup. Did they lose yesterday against Atletico in their preseason friendly? So you want to be getting 15 points against those 5 teams. I think starting against Fulham, up from the Championship, and without being disrespectful, the team that started yesterday is probably the team that will start against Fulham. And those 11 players should be able to then take us to a good place. Now, we know that we've got 5 subs this season, so we should be able to rotate players as the game progresses and get a comprehensive win. Now, we did say that in seasons past against Leeds and whatnot, and end up with a really close result. And I think that was last season, wasn't it? It was a Friday night game and it finished 4-3. But I really think that we should be able to, in these 5 games, get 5 wins, and especially whenever you've kind of got a week's break between games and stuff, we should be able to kind of get that in place. So that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I don't see anything less than 15 points. Like Liverpool's just too good for any of these teams that they're starting the campaign against. What I'm going to be looking for is more of around like how Klopp is integrating Darwin. Is like, Does Darwin start? Does Bobby start, or is it something like what we saw yesterday, where Bobby gets 60 and Darwin gets 30? And I would not be surprised if that ends up being the pattern, is sort of like Bobby starts, but then Darwin gets a good chunk of the second half. And like Lubo was saying, is like Bobby wears him down, and then just Darwin is running against tired defenders, and he's got lots of space. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes, and making sure that Darwin gets like acclimated to the league. And we've like had a couple of different people talk on Anfield Index about Darwin at the time of his signing, and talking about how he was a little bit slow to get integrated at Benfica. So that's sort of what I'm watching for, at least in the first month or so, to see how that goes for him. So that's one thing that I want to see. So Lubo, what are you looking for in the first month from the Reds?
5 wins, as Paul said. I think that it's going to be really important to get the campaigns, the Premier League campaign, started on the right foot. Because the teams are not very strong, right? I think if you wanted to start against 4 or 5 teams that you feel confident you should win, I think we have the schedule to do it, and it's going to be really important to get started on the right foot, especially before it becomes really crazy with the 2 games a week that are going to be coming up the rest of the season. So that, and also just the team feels ready. Even though that the team. We have Darwin, we have Fabio, we have Calvin, but that doesn't feel like there hasn't really been a lot of turnover, and both Darwin and Fabio seem to have integrated very quickly into the team. So you want to use that. You want to use the fact that you have a pretty settled team, you have an established team, and go against these other teams that maybe are not as prepared, hopefully not as prepared, and get those 5 points. Hopefully Man City drop some points. I don't know if they will, but just get started on the right foot. And I mean, even though the first 3 or 4 games are 1 game a week, Klopp did say that he still views this as the preseason. And so I'm sure that there will be a lot of training sessions in between games. And in fact, I think there's going to be even a behind closed good doors friendly coming up, where he still views the first couple of weeks as extended preseason. But obviously, he will emphasize the games that in the league that matter. Hopefully, we can continue to collect the points there, and then see where we end up in a month.
Yeah, I think that, like you're saying, is like you gotta build up that fitness over these first few weeks while you have 1 week per game, 1 week between games, because I think it's starting August 31st. There is a midweek game every week until the World Cup starts, which is on like November 15th. So I think it's like 9 or 10 weeks, there's 3 games a week. And so like they're just going to be playing a ton. And hopefully everything is so settled and ready to go that there can just be a good rotation of guys and nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I think the other important thing would be to hopefully get Diogo Jota back by the end of the month. I know he was yesterday at Leicester with the rest of the team. Costas was well. Costas, it doesn't sound like he was serious, more of a precaution. He had a knock, but for Diogo to be able to come back by the end of the month and be ready to go when the two games a week start, I think is going to be really important. We have decent depth right now in attack, but you definitely want to have Diogo available as an option as well. So hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully he's able to recover from his hamstring issue by the end of the month, and so he's ready to join then when we start that really busy period.
Yeah, hopefully the extended time off means it's like a more permanent fix than like if we were to like rush him back. There's no reason to do that at this point, but as long as you can get him to a point where he's like healthy enough to where he's not going to get re-injured within a month, that would be awesome. The other one is, I think Allison is supposed to be back for next weekend, and so if he could be back and just ready to go, that would also be very, very helpful. So in talking about the other competition or the other major competition that Liverpool will be playing in the early part of the fall, the Champions League. So the draw, as I mentioned, is in late August. Are there any teams that either of you would like to see Liverpool play against? Lubo?
So I was looking at someone had done on these projections on Twitter to say which teams are likely. Obviously, it's still not clear because the lower pots, so pots 3 and 4, they're still not decided. There's still Champions League games that are happening. I was actually fumbling. I was trying to find that tweet because one thing that jumped out is apparently we have a really good chance to be in the same group as Real Madrid. And I know we were in the same. We've been playing Real Madrid quite a bit recently. We obviously played them in the Champions League knockout 2 seasons ago when they knocked us out, and then we played them in the final. But I wouldn't mind taking another shot at Real Madrid if they end up in our group. I would. I think it would be actually good to take a little revenge. I think another team that would actually be fun if it happens would be Barcelona. I wouldn't mind playing against them.
Barcelona is also in pot 2, so we can't get.
Oh, we can't. Maybe that is why. That is why we couldn't. Because I was looking at it, I was like, why are Real Madrid so high, but Barcelona is too low? And it's those.
So Barcelona, Atletico, and Sevilla are all in pot 2, so that makes it more likely that Liverpool gets the Spanish team in pot 1, which is Real.
That explains it. See, Matt, that's why you're the moderator, because you actually are prepared for these spots. I had just noticed. Yeah, you know your stuff. But I think getting Real Madrid would be fun. I think another team that actually would be fun if we get them is Bayern, just because of the Sadio reunion. And we played Bayern, obviously, a few years ago when we eliminated them. But I think it would be fun, especially it's a new team. There's no Lewandowski. There's Sadio now. I think they play a little bit of a kamikaze style. And I actually think we would match up really well against them. And I could see it being a really fun, high-scoring type games that you don't mind in the group stage. If we got Bayern in the group, chances are Liverpool and Bayern would be the 2 teams to advance out of the group anyhow. So I think that would be another fun team to get. And then I think just flying I think for the fans, going to Munich would be actually a lot of fun.
Bayern would be definitely be an interesting matchup. When I'm looking at the teams in pot 1, the one that stands out to me is Eintracht Frankfurt. Liverpool hasn't played them in a competitive game in 50 years, and so that would be something new and different because every other team in pot 1, Liverpool has had at least one tie with in the last 4 or 5 seasons. That one sort of stood out to me. And then in pot 3, it would be I think it would be interesting to play Sporting Lisbon. Liverpool's never played them in an official game, and so I think that would be pretty cool. Paul, are there any teams that you're looking forward or would be looking forward to playing?
Well, I think as Lubo said there, Bayern would be a great team to play just simply for the Sadio connection, and also because Bayern are effectively touted as one of the top teams in Europe, so you always want to come up against the best of the best. And they've made some good signings this summer, so you kind of want to, you always want to be kind of playing against them, against the best teams. Going Frankfurt definitely would be one that would be an interesting one. I would weirdly with PSG. I just think we did well against them in the group stages, so I think they've been an interesting proposition. Again, changed manager, different style of play possibly. So interesting to see how we do against them. I think Champions League when it comes down to you get great European teams and you get something not so good, and you just have to go out and beat whoever you've got in front of you. Which last season we showed we could do in the supposed group of death. So again, I would just go and beat whoever's in front of us would be my approach. Always like a Milan game, whether it's Inter or AC, or even Juventus. I like playing Italians, so it'd be. I love to have a group with another Italian team in it. Would be good as well.
Yeah, it looks like the options for teams from Italy is AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Napoli.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
we
like the Napoli games were always good. I went down the pre-season down in Aviva Stadium down in Dublin against Napoli a couple of years ago. So, and, it's always nice to. I just like watching the Italian style of play. So it would be good. It'd be good to come up against them.
Yeah, I think that there's just lots of fun, different options, and so we'll just have to see how it plays out. There could also be some interesting teams that come through in pot four. Like we could get Monaco and see hockey again.
Yeah,
and
you
that
think
could be a good
season,
one. And then like Celtic is also an option.
Yeah, you think last season Real Madrid playing Sheriff, and they were like that was a really weird, set of results in that as well. So.
Yeah, and like Sheriff could still qualify through the Champions Path, so they could still be an option for Liverpool.
Yeah,
I would rather not. I would rather not get a team from Eastern. Well, mostly for the travel, right? So they're an easy team.
Yeah,
you count to beat them comfortably. But honestly, Champions League. Whenever I look at the games, I just want teams that are close nearby that you can fly pretty quickly for especially midweek games, right? But also for the fans, because I mean it's one of those things where you'd hate to have fans trying to travel all the way to Moldova for a game. So I think anything that's local, that's a big airport where fans could go in and out. I would love to actually be able to go to a Champions League away game this year. I think it's probably going to be impossible. And maybe one of the reasons I was actually hoping for Bayern is I may be able to finagle a ticket in the Bayern part of the of the stadium. I have some friends who might be able to help out with that. So I've got a selfish reason for that. But yeah, I just don't want long travels. That's the one thing that I always for European campaigns, just nice short trips. That is always my preference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, now the truth comes out, Lubo. That's why you want Bayern.
Selfish.
Okay, let's sort of shift gears here a little bit. So at this point in time, and looking at the squad, do either of you think Liverpool need another signing? Paul, do you want to get us started on that one?
Oh, and this is this is the standard one with us every season, and it's nearly the joke that everyone has about the Positivity Podcast, like we're anti-transfer, which is completely not true. We enjoy a transfer the same as everyone else. I just think that when I approach the squad that we have currently, I look at it from a positive point of view, and I think that our squad is really, really good. Do I think we need another transfer this summer? No. That being said, if there was the opportunity that came and presented itself, I wouldn't turn it down. Do you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thought of, I don't think we're crying out for anyone. I know that we talk about midfielders, or are we lacking slightly in attack depth with senior players, and there's possibly an argument that you could have around right side of midfield, or what way we're going to play the eights, or how we're going to, who's the depth for Fabinho in the sixth role. There's so many arguments you could have around that, but I don't think there is a pressing need. That being said, again, opportunity presents itself. You're never going to say no if the right player becomes available at the right money and we get the opportunity to buy someone, especially with, an injury to Ox that's probably going to keep him out past the World Cup. Was he going to get a lot of minutes? I don't think so, but at the same time, he was an option that you had as, someone who play in midfield in a game to see out 20 minutes. You could come on for Mo if you're 4-0 up and you needed someone just to play. And you're lacking that slight bit of depth. But do we absolutely need to go out and buy someone? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm sure you're shocked. I don't think Liverpool need another player,
No.
right? Like there are enough guys there with enough quality to get at least through to the World Cup, right? Like that is a
Yes.
good enough team, and to be in like first or second place in the league and win the Champions League group, like that group of players is good enough to do that. But like you're saying, because like we're gonna have 5 games before the window closes, so something could happen in those 5 games, right? Like if you had like a catastrophic injury to one of your midfielders and you had been working on a deal and you could move that forward, like that would be like a good plan, or something like that. If there's an opportunistic buy like you were describing, like I would definitely be welcoming that as a thing. But like this group is good enough right now to go win things. So Lubo, your thoughts?
So one of the reasons why Liverpool are really good at the transfer business and always seem to be making good signings for good money, and you could argue whether Darwin was good money. I mean, Liverpool did pay a lot of money for him, right? But one of the reasons they normally have really good transfer business and don't overpay ridiculously for players is they're never in a situation, or really rarely in a situation, where they need to buy, right? Whether they must buy. You could say probably the one time they were in this situation is in January of last season or 2 seasons ago, when all the center backs were injured and they went and then Joel got injured. And that probably was the closest that Liverpool came to, need to buy, must buy, right? And even then, the approach that they took was just smart, not really making ridiculous commitments to players who then don't fit the long-term strategy, right? They just got Ben Davies and then they got Kabak and somehow made it through the rest of the season, finished top 4, which is probably what was realistic after all the injuries, right? So from that perspective, Liverpool are rarely in a situation, barring catastrophic injuries, as you guys said, where you must buy someone. And so far, there have been some injuries. I mean, obviously, Alisson, but hopefully he's back for Fulham. Diogo, he should be back by the end of the month. Calvin Ramsey, he should be back soon, but he was at best a backup, right? And James Milner seems to be getting quite a lot of minutes in right back. The only one is probably Ox, and rumors are that his injury is quite serious and he could miss a few months, but he's also was the 8th midfielder, right? And you're not going to spend significantly in the summer to bring another guy who would be replacing your 8th midfielder. So from that perspective, as Klopp said, unless someone just says right at the end of the transfer window, I want to go, and that could be someone like a Bobby or maybe even someone like a Naby Keita, because there have been rumors that he's ready to sign a new contract, but nothing's been announced. If those plans change, someone that you're counting to get quite significant minutes this season, if that person becomes unavailable either because of injury or because of request to leave, I'm pretty sure that Liverpool have contingency plans that they could move forward and bring in. But otherwise, I think they're pretty good shape. I think that everyone says we need another midfielder, and I think Liverpool need a midfielder, maybe a couple of midfielders eventually, just because they have to replace Ox and Milner and then eventually Hendo and Thiago. But that is more of a 2 to 3 year horizon issue. And that gives you the time to really wait for the players who you really want to bring in, who are going to be Liverpool players for the next decade. Jude Bellingham's been rumored. Nunes from Sporting has been rumored. I'm sure there are others. And I think that is eventually the type of move that will happen, possibly next summer, possibly the summer after that, when is the right time. There will be a couple of new midfielders that will come in. But for this summer, for the next month, unless there are catastrophic injuries or someone has to leave, I don't think that Liverpool really need to make any major signings.
No, I think that's correct. I think that's a good summary of like sort of the state of affairs for Liverpool's squad and sort of how they need to operate within the transfer market over the next month, but also over the next like couple of years. So I think think that's a good point in time to start looking ahead to the season as a whole and make some predictions. Let's start with predict your top four. Lubo, do you want to go first on top four?
Well, Liverpool is going to win the title. That's a given. It's not even a question now. I mean, in fact, we're winning. I can just make it easy. We're winning the pentuple because the Charity Shield trophy counts, right? So I'm upping the ante from winning the quadruple to winning the pentuple. But I think we're going to win the league this year. I think who's going to come in second? I think City will be there. You discount them at your own risk. I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs actually make a really, really deep run, just because Conte will have them physically fit, will have them organized, and he has shown that he can take a group of talented players who are maybe not tactically as disciplined, as organized as they could be, and really make a run. And I think that he's been able to bring in a few more players. He's got a pretty deep squad, and I can see Spurs challenging for second. I have Spurs as third, and my wild pick here is I actually have Arsenal finishing fourth ahead of Chelsea. I would love to see Chelsea and Man United both finish outside of the top four. So I will say Liverpool, Man City, Spurs, and Arsenal.
Interesting choices. So for me, I have Liverpool winning. Again, very surprising. And then I'll take City second. Yeah, they're still the second best team, and they're probably going to be right there with Liverpool for the whole season. And I think that Liverpool will probably win, by 5-6 points, but City will be right there, sort of like Liverpool, sort of in the mid 90s for points, and then City around 90. And then for third place, I think that you're right, Lubo, that Spurs are going to be there. Conte's a very good manager. They've signed some good players, and he's going to just have them well drilled at Conte ball, and it's just going to probably be good enough to get them into third. And then for fourth place, I think it will be Chelsea. I think they will get fourth again this season. I think that they just have a good enough first group of players to put them over the top over Arsenal and Manchester United, and they'll just get there in the end. So, Paul, what's your predicted top four?
Yeah, this is very similar to you guys. I think we've picked the same top three, with Liverpool winning, City second, Spurs third, fourth. I think will depend. I think it's between Chelsea and Arsenal, and I think it ultimately comes down to will Chelsea be able to do anything to strengthen their defence between now and the end of the transfer window, and also how good will Arsenal hit the ground running with their games, and Gabriel Jesus, how well he performs for them in the Premier League. I know that in the pre-season he has done well. I think he's maybe scored 7 goals for them pre-season. I could be making that up completely. I thought I'd read that somewhere. I think he has done. I think his move to Arsenal has been a good move for him. So it'll be interesting to see then just how well he does, how they do in the Premier League with him spearheading their attack. But I think it's between those two teams. I don't know if I can commit to either one of them finishing fourth. I think probably Chelsea should finish in the top 4. I think they will. I think they will have just enough to get there. But I do think Arsenal will give them a bit of a run for it. Your wild card obviously is United and how they'll do, but I genuinely don't see them challenging top 4 places at all.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's pretty much how I would sort of handicap the league is Spurs are just going to be a little bit better than Chelsea. Chelsea and Arsenal are going to fight each other for fourth, and then United's just going to be a little bit below them. Let's see if we can get some disagreement here on the Positivity Podcast. Who do you think is going to be relegated? Paul, do you want to start us off on that?
This is interesting. isn't it? It's hard to know. Like you have to look at the teams that barely stayed up last season. So you think of Leeds, and you wonder how they'll do under Jesse Marsh. Like I like him, and I like that he was able to keep them up last season. But you just have to wonder how over the course of the season have they done enough transfer wise, especially with Calvin Phillips going. Have they done enough transfer wise to kind of put themselves in a position where they can, finish mid-table? After that, so I'm not necessarily saying that Leeds are going down, but I think they're one to watch. Everton again, I think I could go red versus blue rivalry. There's nothing that I've seen in pre-season from Everton that would make you go, they're going to be not fighting relegation again this season. Personally, I don't think Frank Lampard's anywhere near a good enough manager to be managing at this level. And I think that Everton will struggle to kind of be anywhere away from, those bottom 5-6 places for most of the season. The teams that came up, obviously, you've got Bournemouth, you've got Nottingham Forest, and who was the other team that came up? Fulham. Yeah, so Fulham and Bournemouth obviously have been a wee bit yo-yo over the last couple of seasons. I just don't know that either of those two. I don't know that either of those two have enough to keep them up. And then I also think Nottingham Forest are in for Nottingham Forest have done that thing that Fulham did a couple of seasons ago, where they have just bought, I think today they made their 12th signing of the summer. And so you're kind of going, 12 signings, and you're kind of going, that is a lot of signings to start the season with, and to try and get players bedded in. And they've made, don't get me wrong, they've made good signings, but it's just a massive upheaval from the team that brought them up, and you have to question and go, is that going to be enough to keep them up? So I think I've named 5 teams there, and I think those are the 5 teams that will be struggling all season. I'm not going to nail down 3 of them.
Okay. So for me, I think that when you're talking through your reasons there of the teams that are coming up, I think all 3 teams that got promoted are going to get relegated. It's Fulham have signed 2 players, and so they're basically going to roll through the season with a championship level roster, and Mitrovic is their forward. And the last time they went with him as their forward in the Premier League, he scored 3 goals. That's not going to be enough to keep him up. No. Bournemouth have only signed 2 guys on a free transfer, so they're just again rolling a championship roster out in the Premier League. You're getting relegated, and then like we were talking about with Nottingham Forest, it's you have 12 guys, and it's going to be somewhat chaotic there, I imagine, for the first half of the season, while all those guys are trying to figure out how they play, and that might be to the point where you're too far behind to get out. And even though those 3 teams we're talking about that just missed relegation last year, I think they probably just have enough in terms of Premier League quality to stay in the league. So, Lubo, who do you think is going to be relegated?
So, Bournemouth, I think they're going to go down. Much as I want to see ex-Golanki do well, as you guys pointed out, they've really not done anything to improve. I mean, they were a decent championship team, but I think they'll really struggle in the Premier League. Fulham, for the same reason that you mentioned, Matt, they have a thin squad. They're going to be over-reliant on Mitrovic. They lost Fabio to us, who was arguably their second best player last year. And I just saw today that apparently Harry Wilson has a knee injury and could be out for a while. So that will hurt, because he was, after Fabio, he was probably their second most creative attacking player. I think they will struggle as well. I actually disagree a little bit on Nottingham Forest for 2 reasons. One is they needed to upgrade. They didn't have a great team, and the players that they've let go were just bad players, and they have actually invested and they've made some smart signings. It's just really going to come down to whether Cooper can get them organized quickly and eke out a few wins and keep them. But I'm more positive on Forest just because they've really upgraded. They knew that they had a bad team or just a mediocre team, and they've really upgraded from the teams that were at the relegation zone. I think Everton. I agree with Paul. I could see Everton really struggling because they lost Richarlison, who was arguably their best player, right? And they haven't really upgraded. I saw that they're being linked with bringing Ghana back from PSG, which will help. But with Frank at the wheel, I'm not sure that they're going to improve significantly. And then I'm more positive on Leeds. Another team that I'm really skeptical about is actually Southampton because they struggled quite a bit last year, and this year a lot of the players they've been signing have been young players. They got that Irish goalkeeper from Man City, but they've been signing a lot of players who are 18, 19, 20, and don't have a lot of Premier League experience, and they may really struggle with those. It almost feels like they're building a team that they realize could actually drop down to the championship if things break wrong for them. So I would imagine Southampton could be in a tight spot this season. But I would say I will go with Fulham, Bournemouth, and one of Everton or Southampton.
Interesting. Okay. So we're pretty much the same, but maybe one or two different. Cool. So let's shift back to making some predictions for the season about Liverpool. Who will be Liverpool's top scorer and how many goals will they score? Lubo, want to get us started on that one?
Well, you always have to go with Mo Salah, right?
Yes.
And I think that how about 40 goals across all competitions for Mo?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's the other parameter of the question. It's all competitions.
I'll go with Mo and 40 goals.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mo, and I will say I think he'll have a storming season. I'm going to go 45 goals.
Oh, well, that's different. So, Lubo, I was also going to say Mo and 40. I think that he looks really ready to go. He's going to get a month off, and then he's going to be ready to go again. And I think that each time what we've seen with Mo is if he gets a break and he gets some rest, he goes and scores a lot of goals. And this season, instead of going to AFCON and playing for 1,000 minutes, he's going to go to the beach for a couple weeks and then come back and be rested. And so he's going to score a lot of goals. So, Paul, maybe you're right. Maybe he will challenge for the single season record.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, another question. Who will provide the most assists and how many assists will they provide? And again, all competitions. Paul, you want to start us off?
I'm going to go with Trent. And I will say 18 assists.
18 assists, okay. Lubo?
I'll also go with Mo. And I think he's going to have I'll go 20 assists for Mo. How is that? He's going to provide a lot of assists for Nunes. So 40 goals and 20 assists for Mo Salah.
That's going to be an incredible season if he does that.
60 goal involvements in 63 games. That'll be pretty good. So I will take Trent and 20. So I think that Trent will just be a little bit better than last year, and it's going to be a fun thing to watch. Okay, so
important question: does the Community Shield count? Because Mo already got a goal and an assist in the Community Shield. Do we give him that one? I think it counts.
No.
No. I think no.
Okay, that's fair. He'll still do 40-20.
So yeah, awesome. So the next question is for the Premier League only. So this is an over/under question. So will Liverpool be over or under 22 clean sheets? Lubo?
22. I'll say over. So 22, 22 or
if you
more.
If you want a reference, last year was 21 clean sheets.
We'll have more this year. I say 22 or more.
Yeah,
So
I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing with that.
Over. Okay.
Over 22.
I think I will.
Yeah.
I will take actually the under on this. I think it'll probably be about the same as last year. 21 clean sheets. Interesting. Okay, so final prediction is how far does Liverpool make it in the cups? So League Cup, Paul.
At least semis.
Okay, Lubo.
Win it.
Okay, I will take win it on this one. FA Cup, Paul.
Again, semis.
Lubo.
I think that the schedule could get a little crazy at the end, and that's going to be the biggest challenge. I'll say semis, but I would not be surprised if we win it again. But I'll just hedge a little bit, and I'll say semis.
Yeah, the FA Cup's the one where I think that Liverpool might just de-emphasize because it's where the schedule can get really compact, and I'll say quarters on the FA Cup. So Champions League, Paul.
Win it.
Lubo?
Win it.
And I'll say semi-final minimum. All right. I think that's all I have for prediction questions. So do either of you have any other predictions you want to throw out there?
I'll say
Ten Hag to be sacked before the end of the season.
Okay. And then Lubo?
I'll go Nunes 25 goals or more in all competitions.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. How many minutes for Curtis?
How many?
Ouch. 2,000 or more. 2,000 or more minutes for Curtis.
In all comps.
In all comps.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction.
Yeah.
So, like Curtis predicted for himself 10 goals and 10 assists. Do you think he'll make it?
No, but I think he may do 5 and 5. I could see 5 and 5 from him.
Yeah, I think that might be reasonable. Probably maybe fewer goals but more assists for him. So then I'll take Luis Diaz for 20 goals in all comps as my secondary prediction. So
that's your wild card.
Is my wild card, yeah. So I think that's a good time for us to wrap things up. Lubo, do you have any final thoughts?
No final thoughts. I just hope, well, I guess I do have final thoughts then. I just hope that everybody stays healthy. And I hope that Ali and Diogo can be back, Costas can be back soon, Calvin can be back soon, and that we are managing to avoid unfortunate injuries. And I think if we stay healthy, if the team stays healthy, we're going to have a great season. And hopefully we get a little bit of the rub of the green with the referees. We may actually be getting a little bit of a lucky break just because some of the really bad referees have retired going into this season. So hopefully that means that the quality of the refereeing is a little bit better. But the biggest thing is I'm just hoping for good luck with injuries. And if that happens, we're going to have a great season.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Paul, your final thoughts?
Yeah, just there's not much more can be said. I think we're in a good shape to hit the season hard. We've got 16 games before the World Cup break. I think we need to just aim for as many points as we can possibly get in those 16 games. I think we just need to be full steam ahead, going hard these first 5 games in this first month, and then just keep that steam train rolling, and put ourselves in a great position, pre-World Cup. And then again, lots of players aren't going to the World Cup, which works in our favour. So I think we're in for a really, really, really good season, and I am very much looking forward to it. So yeah, that should be good.
That's a good note to come to a close on, and it's going to be an action-packed season, lots of stuff for the Reds, really tight schedule. So for us, we'll probably try to come back again after the first month of the season and see how Liverpool has done up to that point. So until we talk to you then, up the positivity, Reds. Have a good afternoon.
Take care, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.